what's the impact, right? And they're still trying to figure out the impact. One of the challenges about studying pornography with children is we can't take kids and make them watch porn to see what the results are. What is the psychological impact? So there's a challenge in creating double-blind studies from a psychological perspective. The result of that has been the pro-porn movement is repeatedly declaring there's no harm to children. The studies don't show harm. Well, here's the reality. They're having a hard time finding children who haven't seen porn to include in the studies. They did a study in Sweden, big study. It was nationally funded. You know, Sweden does things, right? And they had a big study. They wanted to test young men, and they canceled it. They couldn't find anyone who hadn't seen pornography because they wanted to create compare the two. Erectile dysfunction, the fastest growing demographic of men taking prescription medication for erectile dysfunction, and us older guys in the room can appreciate this statistic, is 18 to 24. The fastest growing demographic of men taking prescription medication for erectile dysfunction is 18 to 24. The Mexican and Canadian pharmacies are one of the largest advertisers on the porn sites. They know. And so the kids are now buying pills to be able to perform with their partners because they can't do it without it. The number of therapists who treat men struggling with compulsive behavior 7 years ago was in the hundreds, now it's in the thousands. And the reason is because our sexual energy as human beings is so much an integral part of who we are. It's powerful, right? It's how we connect with another person. It's how we create life from a psychological, evolutionary, biological, chemical, physiological, you name it, it's powerful. And when these men in couples, when that sexuality gets destroyed, things are in bad news. So just read this quote. The awkward truth, according to one study, is that 90% of 8 to 16-year-olds have viewed pornography online. Considering the standard climax to even the most vanilla hardcore scene today, means that there is an entire generation of young people who think that sex ends with a money shot to the face. Pardon for being graphic, but that's what the kids are watching. That's what pornography is selling. The business of porn is getting to a place now where it's become a freak show. Who can top the next? Every studio is, who can get more extreme, who can get more graphic, and who can get what's next. And I'm not going to get into those details in a large group, but it's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's certainly not the magazines that we saw. So, I'll tell you a little bit about yesterday's porn and contrast it with today's porn. I think pornography is a bad word. I don't mean it's a bad word like it's a bad word. I think it's a crappy way to describe our problem. Because when I say pornography, we all bring through it our lens, the lens through which we may have experienced it. When I was a child, it was magazines, maybe some videos, maybe a storyline accompanying with that video that you had to fast forward to get to the good parts. So you had Playboy magazine, that's a picture of Ron Jeremy, and then Debbie Does Dallas. These were storylines, they were pornography, they were naked people, and but here's the deal. We're now bringing up a generation of boys on cruel, violent pornography, and given what we know about how these images affect people, this is going to have a profound influence on their sexuality, their behavior, and attitudes towards women. These two scenes here that I've pixelated, that is a ex-porn actress. Her name is Vanessa Belmont, who I've spoken to. I've actually interviewed in my YouTube channel a former porn star who worked for the same studio as Vanessa. She was repeatedly raped, repeatedly drugged, and this is a mainstream, cinema, mainstream organization that actually is located out of San Francisco, California. She left the industry a broken person and is still trying to piece her life back together. Just to talk about the industry for a second, 10 years ago, the average lifespan of a porn star was 2 to 5 years. It's 6 months now. And in those 6 months, some of these actresses have shot over 300 scenes. So you have now commoditized our sexuality. Okay? You've commoditized it in such a way to get as much as you can out of these rats before they're put out. And then what do you do? What do you do now? So you're starting to see some social services, but when you think about the industry and you think about what our kids are watching, it's a really, really dark place for a whole variety of different reasons, not just on the viewing side, but on the performer side as well. They have no piece of the pie, they're paid per scene, shot multiple times a day, no code of conduct, unsanitary conditions. It's a dark place for many, many people.